and good morning, everybody. Sorry for the delay if you're watching the Wednesday wrap-up. We didn't have any power to start the day, which also means I'm doing this without coffee, so sorry for what's about to happen. And I am joined here... What's happening here? All right, I am joined here with Mista Yu and Herb. This is going to be a disaster the whole time, so thanks for tuning in.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
This is all good, man.
Oh man! Well, since we didn't have power, it's a hard restart on the machines, right? So now I have every system startup pop-up screen popping up. So this is good stuff.
Good times in the Pacific Northwest. That's what you're telling us. It's good times out there.
How's your guys' morning going?
Man, it was wild, man. Great start.
I mean, how can I say anything different?
Man. Good. See, this is why live podcasting is fun. You never know what's going to happen.
That's right. An adventure every day.
Yes,
yeah, that is for sure. And for those of you watching, again, sorry for the delay. Thanks for hanging on. All right, here we go. So we'll kick this thing off. Jimmy G gets suspended 2 games. Not that it's going to matter. The Raiders were likely going to cut him anyway. So all this does is free up a little over $11 million in cap space for him. That'll help them go get a quarterback, I'm sure. But for Jimmy G, does this put him on the outside looking in as far as the league?
It's going to be tough, man. Whoever wants to sign him already knows his limitations, right? And then I sign him knowing he's going to miss the first couple of games, right? And before I was thinking his best scenario would be somebody who drafts that Wednesday thing. That's what I'm talking about.
You knew he was going to drop that in.
Yeah, he came out firing this morning. I still think that his best situation is a team that's like, look, we'll sign you for a year while we're bringing up our young quarterback, that we just drafted that we don't want to have to start the first year. So we don't mind having you out there in a situation where we're not trying to win that many games. But now I sign you knowing you're going to miss the first 2, and I still got to sign somebody else. It just does, it just hurts the situation that I think he's built for right now.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. I can't trust the NFL in this realm because they let us down so many times. I mean, you see a guy who, I think in this case, Joe Flacco was a kind of an outlier in this case, so I'm not including him in what I'm about to say. But you got quarterbacks who they've been getting by for the most part. They've been have big contracts and they've been getting by. I even go back to Sam Bradford. I can go back way back to that. And it's like him being on the outs kind of hard. I need to see it to believe it.
Right.
Somebody's going to do what they do with head coaches that have been floundering, that haven't never really got it done. They're still on the top 5 of people that they want when the coaching job comes up. So it's like Jimmy G. He ain't playing in Canada. He gonna be in the NFL. Somebody's gonna pick him up, and I don't know what they're gonna give him. Maybe it's gonna be incentive laden because of all that's been going on. But somebody just gave him $72.5 million, and you saw what was going on with him before that. His ability to not stay on the field, some lapses in judgment, in-game decision making, that kind of stuff, and you still gave him $72 million in 3 years. You still did that, and you guaranteed a good part of it. So now the Raiders are talking about saving $11.25 million and letting him go, but he's not going to Canada. Somebody's going to pick him up, and I don't understand why, but so many guys that probably need a good chance to get a shot at. Maybe even a guy like Malik Willis might get an opportunity. But no, it's probably going to be Jimmy G over him, or Jimmy G over so many others. So I don't think he's going to be on the outs. I think it's a bad system and a bad approach to quarterbacks and head coaches too. So,
and that's what we said last night. In the NFL likes to recycle coaches and quarterbacks.
For sure.
Sorry, Bo.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. I mean, the thing that always helps Jimmy G is, for whatever reason, even though wins aren't supposed to be a quarterback stat, they are, right? And so, for whatever reason, he has a good winning percentage. Now, it's generally not because of him.
Right.
But he's on the roster when it happens, right? So that's one of those, well...
I was there.
Hey, sometimes you're on that team project, you don't really show up, but you get an A, right?
Right.
So that is Jimmy G. He gets a good team around him. He can do just enough to win a lot of games. So
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I think he's more or less a career backup at this point, especially because he can't stay healthy.
Right.
But with the suspension, it seems like it's going to be hard for someone to want to take a flyer on it because, to your point, if you were going to go draft a guy, you don't want to throw your draft pick out there for 2 games and then pull him back in.
Right.
So that's not really a scenario that makes sense. If you are going any other route, you probably already have a stopgap guy.
Yeah.
Or you have someone that's better than Jimmy G. So it seems like a weird year for him. I'm sure someone will pick him up if people get hurt, but I don't know if he actually starts the year on a roster.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what I'm trying to figure out what people are seeing that makes them think that he is quote unquote better than whoever you have in the A, B, and C position. Like I'm not quite getting it. I don't really. I mean, prototypically, physically, I see what you might probably want in the quarterback, height, that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't know where to go with arm strength. I don't feel like that's a big thing for him. Arm strength and accuracy. I don't see the allure, especially now with years and injuries. Like, what's the allure to make you say, you know what, this person deserves a 3-year, nearly $100 million contract? What is that? What is it that you're seeing that the rest of us can't see?
So the money doesn't make sense, that's for sure. But if you were to get him for relatively cheap, like I could see him starting over a Mac Jones or a Zappy or maybe even like a Daniel Jones. I could see him starting over Daniel Jones. I could see him. I don't know. Those might be the 3 dudes.
All right, we're done,
man.
We're done.
Yeah, I mean, no, because I could see him over a guy like Ritter. I could see him over Sam Howell. So I mean, like, there's some spots, right? There's some spots that he could potentially start.
Not Gardner Minshew, though, right?
Yeah, man, that's close. That's a coin flip, probably.
Yeah,
honestly, because Minshew is Minshew, right? So, yeah, I think that would be a coin flip. So, I mean, there's 4 or 5 spots that he could potentially be a upgrade or similar, I guess, if you're including Minshew, because that's probably about right. Yeah. So I don't know.
It's a tough one.
Yeah. Sticking with quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins expected to be back and is searching for another guaranteed contract. So this would be his 3rd, I believe, fully guaranteed contract in a row. Minnesota seems like they might be apprehensive to give him that.
Right.
That being said, a team that might give it to him would be Atlanta.
I could see that.
Because he'd be a free agent. They don't have to give up anything to go get him. If they gave him a contract, they get the quarterback play that they need. They have an okay offensive line. They have a decent 1st-round pick that they could go get a receiver for. And you already have a tight end, a running back, and a defense that works.
I could see that one working. Yeah. They've used some good picks on offense, so they've got, a little bit of a structure around them. And they're, the limitation we always say with Kirk Cousins, that, win the big game, probably not going to win you a Super Bowl. But for Atlanta, especially in that division, you got to think playoff favorite, win the division favorite. And that's a step in the right direction already. And then you never know, Well, I could definitely.
He could accidentally win 4 primetime games.
Yeah.
He could match what he's done through his career.
Right. Yeah. And then if you don't, I mean, you're in Atlanta, so there's not a whole lot expected anyway. So
it's true.
I think you're covered both ways.
Yeah, because it's not like you drop Kirk Cousins and you're like Super Bowl favorite, right?
Right.
You're just like, okay, like they're gonna make it to the playoffs.
Right. And making it to the playoffs in this case, you're hosting a game, so you're already, ahead of schedule. So no, I could see it. I'd like that pick for Atlanta.
Yeah. This is a funny one bit because everything that's coming from Minnesota is their intention to bring him back. He seemed like he wants to stay in the area, which is commendable because you don't hear that very often. I mean, and he has moved around a little bit before, but varying circumstances. So for him to want to stay there, I think that's commendable. the team seems to want to keep him there. I know Justin Jefferson wants him to stay there. That's for sure. They've been talking about Cousins' contract in conjunction with Jefferson, trying to make it a duo for years to come. So that's on the plus side.
Yep.
That whole guaranteed contract part. That's the part I think that the Vikings are not trying to hear. So
they already set the precedent, though. That's the worst part is they've done it twice.
Yeah, I know. It's like, but should they have? So now Cousins is somebody who is not going to make that an absolute, like he has to have that. I think the Vikings can work something out. If he's at a point where he's like, you know what, I got to have that, especially because I'm injured so much.
Right. And his age, man, I would think you're at that spot. Like this last contract, like I want this one to count. So I see why he's going for it. You know, I don't fault him at all. But
yeah, this is probably his last big contract opportunity for sure.
Yeah,
but
I don't know if Atlanta can protect him the way he
needs to be.
I'm not sure about that. The defense is incredible out there in Atlanta. That part I know about. I've seen that. The O-line, I'm not certain that I think they have some issues there. Maybe adjusting in the draft. He goes there. That could be the grass seems greener type of situation. That might not be what you want, brother. So I don't might be guaranteed contract for a reason. You might need it because
he's not an injury prone guy, though. I mean, this is basically the first time in his career he's been hurt. And he played in Washington. Like, if you were going to get hurt, like, that was the spot.
he had issues out there with that, too. I think even at Michigan State, there was a little bit of that. But I'm not going to say he's injury prone. I've seen guys, we can name guys that are quarterbacks of teams that are injury prone. We can say that about them. I don't think he's in that category.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, I get why Minnesota would want to bring him back because Justin Jefferson came out and was absolutely, to your point, I'm not signing a long-term deal until I know what we have at quarterback.
Right.
And that's fair because as a receiver, your whole career relies on that guy. Right. So I get that. But then is he a free agent or is this a year left on it? Oh, okay. So there's a year left on it.
I think to his credit, he said, I didn't realize he was 35 years old. I thought he was 36. I aged him out some more. But he was saying that it's not about the dollars, it's about the structure. That's what he was telling reporters. So that's commendable, too. That kind of works in the Vikings' favor if you can make that work. But age, injury, performance, those kind of things that you got to factor all that stuff in. So I guess we'll see how it goes. But
I didn't realize this either. Like I'm just and Draft Sharks has this up, and like you just type in injury history, they're giving me the whole thing. His only injury before this was he missed one game at Michigan State with a sprained ankle.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like he's been incredibly durable. I mean, in Washington, when you think about the facility he played in there, because it was hot trash, everybody got hurt on that field.
Right.
So he's 50 and 37 out there in Minnesota. I mean, like, we've seen way worse. It's not bad.
I mean, I just don't like I said, I just don't think he's great. But as far as a regular season quarterback, it's like he's the kind of guy that'll put up top 5 numbers for you in the regular season with, like you said, 3 or 4 duds on primetime games.
Yep.
But with the talent they have there, wide receiver in Minnesota, they could absolutely look great.
And he could rattle off a good season like he did a year ago because, that year Minnesota didn't have they had 2 primetime games. If he goes to Atlanta, they might have one.
Yeah. Yeah. If he catches the flu that one game, stats look even better. See?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if he catches the flu or he doesn't, the numbers will be the same.
Ouch. I hope the Cousins family isn't watching right now. We apologize.
I mean, if you look at the history, you can't be that mad at it, right? Like even if you are Kirk, you got to be like, what? Why?
Yeah. And I know we're not talking about him, so I won't segue too much. But I was listening to some Dallas Cowboys podcasts.
I was going to actually.
Why would you do that?
Oh, okay.
No,
I like to listen to podcasts of the teams that have lost the games just to kind of see their perspective. So I've been listening to a lot of 49er ones after the Super Bowl. And then I thought to myself, I never listened to a Dallas Cowboys one after the Green Bay loss. So I went back and listened. And they're like, they can't explain it, but they're like, Dak, great regular season, gets to the playoffs, what's going on, and they're just like, they're not ready to give up on him, but they acknowledge that there's a problem when he gets to the playoffs. And he even says it like
he's the Scooby-Doo villain.
Yes.
100% he's the Scooby-Doo villain. Like the whole time, just doing what he does. And then it's like you get into the playoffs and mask comes off and he's like, I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you kids. Like,
yes.
And guess who here that said the QB market at $60 million annually?
That is the
Scooby-Doo villain.
That's exactly it. And
this drama continues on.
He's going to get paid.
So, and the problem with that is I believe they're already almost 20 million over the cap. So how much of this team disappears? Plus his contract was written up so goofy that even if they cut him, they'd be paying him for 2 more years. So like it just,
there's no good thing here.
No, they're in a bad spot. This team is about to fall apart.
Yeah. And their problem is that they're kind of like a win now team. So like if you get rid of Dak, who is really, let's be honest, a great regular season quarterback, puts up great numbers through the regular season. Who do you go out and get? Like who is obtainable to replace him that's going to be better, And I think that's kind of where your problem lies.
I mean, the good thing
is keep them. What's going to change? Going to add more money to what they got going on right now.
I'm not asking the Giants fan anything. He don't care. He's like, he's just like, burn it all down. Like,
I feel like that might not be unbiased.
Yeah, I feel like.
No, come on now. You said it yourself. They're already over the cap already. So if you give that the kind of money they're talking about, $60 million. I mean,
yeah. I mean, the worst part is even if they got rid of him, his cap hit is still big, right? And so, like. If they were to extend him, which they almost have to, they've almost backed themselves into that corner, then they can restructure what they have into signing bonuses and kind of massage the cap a little bit. But I mean, at the end of the day, if he resets the market, I haven't seen the gameplay to suggest he should reset the market.
Right.
It's a bad idea, but
they
do bad stuff. So
yeah. Well, and 60 million. I mean, man, that is that's a crazy number for a guy that has one playoff win.
Right.
It's more than
not even just that. Like, if he only had one playoff win, but you could look back and say he was playing great and somebody else let him down. Okay, but even his guys on the podcast are like, he's running through his reads like super fast, everything's sped up, and he even acknowledges like, he's just not the same mentally in a playoff game. And that's what you're paying. Like, are you paying $60 million to win 12 games in the regular season all the time? Because sometimes I feel like with the talent that the Cowboys had, especially this last year, there's a lot of guys you could stuck in there to get you through the regular season at 12 wins, especially the way Philadelphia was trying to give you the division anyway.
I mean, the guy we were just talking about would have done exactly what he did.
Right?
Yeah. You slam Kirk Cousins in there, and that is the same dude.
Yeah.
Right? He'll put up good numbers all regular season. In fact, Cousins is typically an even better stat monster, right?
Right.
And then gets into the playoffs and decides, it's sunny in Mexico.
Yeah. I'm good. Collecting my paychecks.
It's cold in the playoffs. I'm headed south.
I'm telling you, that's what they need to do. They need to go to the bullpen, bring out the lefty, something when it gets to the playoffs. Like, hey, Dak, hey, Kirk, y'all have done a great job. It's the 7th inning.
Sit it down.
We're bringing in Andy Dalton just because we think he'll give us 2 good games.
And the thing is I would actually trust Dalton in the playoffs over a Cousins or a Dak, right? So
bring on Cooper Rush at this point, man. At least he doesn't just throw the ball away for the whole time. So,
and I guess sticking with Dallas, Jimmy Johnson is brought in to be an advisor. I feel like this is too little, too late, though.
Yeah,
this is one of those. Jerry has finally realized that he might be his own problem, but he let this roster get to the spot where it's going to come apart. And I feel like if he was going to have Jimmy Johnson involved, it probably should have been 2 years ago.
Yeah. He brought him in because he was the most fired up person during the Green Bay loss. He seemed like the only person who was really pumped up about that thing when they showed him at halftime.
Emmitt Smith, too.
Okay.
Yeah,
I missed Emmitt. But
what's that?
I said I missed Emmett. I missed Emmett.
Oh.
I was watching the broadcast when they brought out Johnson. So
Yeah, no, Emmett was basically, paraphrasing, just saying they're terrible, and he's tired of seeing them be terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Jimmy
pretty
Johnson's
rough.
going to help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I agree. Just too little, too late.
yeah, well, especially going into this year, right? Because of the cap trouble and everything. I mean, there's not a lot you can do anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not giving Jerry Jones credit for nothing in this situation. I mean, Jimmy Johnson left on bad terms, if you believe all the reports that was going on. You're going to bring him back after what? 28 years of futility for the most part. I mean, is that a bone? I mean, is he not already in the Ring of Honor already? What's the point of this? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
You don't really want him to really be involved. Advisor? What do you mean advisor?
I almost feel like just setting up another
scapegoat. He tells you his opinion.
Exactly.
I mean, what is that?
And how are you going to get in the Hall of Fame before you get into the Ring of Honor?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get what do you mean advisor? I mean, I ask you your opinion, you tell me, and I take credit for it. What are we doing here? Is he really going to be involved with the team? This is just.
I can't imagine
more of a Jerry Jones clown show. This is on and on. This is continuous. Even with the Dak, it's just Jerry Jones. He know what he's doing, and nobody can say anything because he's the owner. Like, you're a blithering idiot. You keep doing the same stuff over and over again. Think it's going to work, and it's not working. Keep on pounding your hand on the same hammer. It's not working. Jimmy Johnson, why he wants to do this, I don't even know why he said yes to this. Honestly, he was better off staying focusing on Fox and doing analysis. Just do something else. But he wanted to be there. He said yes to that.
Still doing that.
Yeah.
I don't think
stay focused on that instead of being Jerry Jones. I don't know.
I don't think he's going to be
leaving the other one.
A full-on employee there. I
don't think that either. I mean, he's an advisor.
Yeah.
This is testing phone calls.
You go sit down and go blow the whole thing up, So, and that's what the two Dallas guys were kind of split. One of them was like, I just feel like we're almost closer to a rebuild than we are to, moving forward. Because what do you do next year? Like, where do you have the talent at those positions? You're probably going to pay Dak. You're going to be the same team next year, So we'll expect the same thing. You'll probably do well in the division. You'll have a great shot at it. Because your division doesn't repeat, you won't win it. So you're going to go on the road for the first game, if you do still make the playoffs, and you're going to lose that, right? So, I mean, what are we expecting to be different next year?
Especially when you figure they're going to lose some guys to get under the cap.
Yeah.
Right? So they're not even going to run it back. They're going to actually lose pieces.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything different. There's nothing that you can point to. So, you know what? We're trying something different. That advisor thing, that's not really.
No, it doesn't.
It's not really helping. I don't see where that translates to on the field wins and losses. I don't see that. I mean, Jimmy Johnson is a lifer, Dallas Cowboy legend.
Yeah.
All props do, but it's not get Jerry Jones out of the GM spot and put somebody else in there. Well, now it's making a change after 28 years of not getting the job done. Now you're making a change. That's not going to happen, is it?
No.
You got an advisor thinking of you, basically it's duct tape and bubble gum. That's what this is. That's what
in college, you call them an analyst, and it's just a way to get another coach in the building. But usually it's for a specific side of the ball or specific position, not, here come in and here's a guy who doesn't know anything about salary caps is just going to look over the whole team and go, what? They don't have the mental makeup to get it done. And I think that's the bigger problem. And you're keeping a coach around. Huh?
Is he helping?
And that's what I'm saying, but McCarthy should have been gone. There's what have you seen from him that says, I'm going to get you over the hump?
So since we're talking about Dallas and how badly this could go, which again will be hilarious, is so you got Jimmy Johnson, who is wildly different than McCarthy, right? Say this year goes badly, which for all intents and purposes looks like it probably isn't going to be a great year for him. McCarthy gets fired. Zimmer steps in as head coach. Like, that seems hilarious. If there was ever a coach that I think is going to have a hard time relating to the current athlete atmosphere, it would be Zimmer. So man, I don't know. Like I'm here for the dumpster fire.
Yeah. It's that.
I mean, you're right. If you're not going to attempt to do anything different, then this is you are what you are at this point. So
yeah, well, and then that makes that Dallas fan accurate, right?
Yeah.
They're probably closer to a rebuild than they are to, winning anything. And if you resist the rebuild, right, then all of a sudden you are doing your Band-Aids and bubble gum and you just will continue to slide, right? Like it'll be one game less, a couple games less, and then all of a sudden you're back in that 8-8 era. You know, you can't do that anymore. Obviously, there's 17 games, but that era of
you don't get a super high draft pick, but you don't compete either.
Exactly.
So you're just there. Yeah.
And you
picking number 13 every year. Yeah.
Yeah. You get stuck there for a minute. As soon as you're in that middle ground, there's nothing you can do. You're just bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I can give them props for a few things. People think could be rivals that I just hate them and I don't see what's going on. I don't see the good that they do. That's stupidity. I can tell you several good things that the Cowboys do consistently, but the problem is that even when they made those changes, about several things, linebackers, some things that I thought were problems that they fixed, some secondary issues. I thought they fixed some of that stuff, but all the changes, something still keeps happening at the end of the day, going into the postseason, and it's not all on Dak.
Right.
It's like,
no,
you got to change that thing, discern that real issue, and change that part, and maybe you make a leap that you haven't made in 28 plus years. It's like that's the thing they refuse to do. It's like you can't keep recycling that and making changes and dancing around it. That's what they haven't been doing. So the rebuild situation is like you got to face it. Even if you have a team that's winning, you might have to still think about it anyway because you guys have been putting a 10, 11, 12 win seasons together all the time, and you can't get there. You got to change something else.
Yep.
You can't keep making changes for change. So you got to change something else, and whatever that is, that's the thing that could be the difference maker here. But now you got all these years, and guys are getting older. They're getting deep into their contracts. It's like, could you imagine a rebuild for a team that's been winning?
Yeah.
It's kind of rare,
and honestly hitting on some good draft picks lately too. So it's not like they're getting just enough stars
drafting
every year to go, oh, we're not rebuilding. Look at who we just got. But it's like the overall is just not there. So
they draft well, period, man.
That's actually the worst part.
They do very good at drafting.
Yeah.
That is the worst part about Jerry. That's the worst part about Jerry, right? Is he wants to be the GM. And he is good at drafting. He can acquire talent like no one else. He just can't get out of his own way to let them play together.
Yeah.
Like if he could just be part of the draft and then, shut up. I think this team could have probably done something along the way. But for his draw to be in the limelight all the time is a distraction, to say the least.
Like the old song says, how long has this been going on?
Yeah.
Almost 30 years.
Yeah. So I guess sticking
willful blindness, man.
What's that?
That's just willful blindness, man.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it. It's right there.
Yep. Yeah, sticking with the coaching front and talking a little bit about scapegoats, we got Wilkes getting fired with the Niners.
Ooh, and that one burns.
That one doesn't make sense to me. Of all the things that went wrong in that Super Bowl for the Niners, the defense wasn't it, right? Like if you wanted to fire a special teams coach, sure, I get it, right? You had multiple special teams issues. If you wanted to have a scapegoat on the offensive side of the ball, sure. Although, I mean, at that point, you kind of have to look directly at Kyle Shanahan since he decided we just didn't want to run the ball anymore with a lead.
You look at him and he goes, look.
Yeah, no, all of a sudden he's the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah.
He's like, So I don't know. What did you guys think of that? Because I thought it was just, it was a bad move, obvious scapegoat type of situation. And you feel a little bit bad for Wilkes because he's kind of had a rough go at each stop.
I'm trying to preface my words real careful because I don't want people think I'm talking about race, so making it about that. So I'm gonna be real careful here what I'm getting ready to say. But it bothers me a lot. It's been bothering me since his 1 year in Arizona. I think that was 2018. It's been bothering me, that situation in Carolina. And there's other coaches that have been treated unfairly. They've been fired on for a team that was already a dumpster fire, knowing they couldn't change it because it was so deep in the hole. It was going to take years for them to get dug out, so they wouldn't get fired the next year anyways. And now his name was associated with Brian Flores and those NFL hiring practices lawsuits that they had against the NFL. So Wilk's name was embedded in that at a very high level. I mean, but this guy had a top 10 regular season defense and top 8 in the playoffs. What did that tell you? That means that they're improving as they go into the postseason. You don't fire somebody because they've been improving. That's just stupid. So something else is going on there with that. And I kind of feel like his head coaching dream, if it's not over, it's pretty close. I think it's kind of tragic.
Yeah.
Historically, he's been a head coach for 1 year, a defensive assistant head coach, and a string of defensive jobs, DCs, and that kind of stuff since 1995. So 20 times he's been in some kind of coaching position and haven't been longer than 2 years in any one of those spots.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who to blame that part on, but I mean, you talk about 20 years and only a 1 or 2 year stop every time since 1995.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
that's not great. It's not a great historical pattern. I don't really know why it is, but he didn't deserve to get fired from this situation. I feel bad that this is happening to him. I don't know why it's happening to him, but
well, I think two things can be true, right? Like this is a scenario where I don't think he should have been fired, but he might also be the common denominator a little bit, being as he can't stay anywhere, right? Like if it was a one or two off, hey, you know, that happens, right? Like you're dating somebody and they're crazy and you're like, okay, right? And you get a couple of them in a row, you're like, all right, maybe it's you know, I got bad taste. I don't know. But then there's like 3 or 4 and you're like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm making them crazy.
Okay. Now in this particular case, the more I like read and hear about it, he was doomed from the beginning here. So apparently what Shanahan wanted was him to run the same system that Saleh was running, that DeMeco Ryans was running, and he runs a different system than what they do. And so it was a bad fit from the beginning. And apparently there was like a lot of tension the whole year. But and then, you know, like the whole come down from the booth, be on the field thing too as well. And then I guess there was a couple moments that Shanahan didn't like the coverage that they were playing. And I've also getting even more deep into, I'm not really like a X's and O's guys as much, but he wanted a defensive coordinator that may be more linebacker kind of friendly or is used to that position group, whatever, something like that as well. It just seems dumb to your original point. Like, even if you said, okay, like this guy's not, like, first off, you just shouldn't hire him. If that's not the fit that you want,
exactly,
you don't hire somebody from outside and say, hey, come in. I know you do stuff like this, but this is how we want you to do it. Now come in. Like, that's just not going to work anyway, especially when you're on the fly. But whatever it was, to your original point, it was working. You know, you didn't give up a touchdown in the game until a muff on the, by the special teams. And you guys know how that is. You go on the sideline, you're checking out the tablets, you're getting your water, and all of a sudden they're like, get back on the field, get back on the field. You're like, I just got here. Like, I literally just sat down. What do you mean get back on the field? And of course you're going to give up a touchdown. You know, smart teams go for the gut there. So I just don't get it in the way they played out. But it's in this particular case, it seems like a scapegoat thing. And let me take all the pressure off me because our offense was pitiful, you know?
Yeah. If
I told you that we were going to hold Kansas City to no touchdowns to almost, no time left in the third quarter, you'd go, oh yeah, we're smoking them. This game's easy, you know? So I don't get it.
I don't know. Like both said, 2 things can definitely be right. 2 more things can be right as well. I mean, their defense played stellar. At the same time, historically, linebackers, they were heavy in the 49ers scheme. Those guys like Navarro Bowman and them boys, they were incredible at what they're doing. They were featured in that defense. So I get that, but both of those situations actually worked.
Right.
So why stop something that is working to go to something else that works too at the expense of somebody's job? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If it's working, and clearly because of their defensive rankings, it has been working.
No, I agree.
But they're going to go ahead and stop that and bring in somebody new, and hopefully it's going to work the way you want it to work out. I mean, it's just a lot of changing and knob twisting for no reason. No, so it just kind of doesn't make any sense. I think, like you said, Shanahan trying to make a scapegoat out of him, and that's what's happening. Yeah. I don't know how this pans out going forward, but it's a pretty bad look by them, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And like I said, that's just stuff I've read afterwards and heard about, So like I guess that makes sense, but it shouldn't have got to this point. It's a bad look to do it right after the Super Bowl because it's like, oh, we lost. The first person fired. Let's be honest, that's who you blame, right? We're running a team and we lost the Super Bowl, lost a big game, and on Tuesday somebody's gone. Like that's who we're thinking lost you the game. And you're like you said, if you list every single play in that game that was a big play, like none of them you point back to, oh, well, the defense messed up here, Even up giving the long drive in overtime, you're thinking, I mean, you held out as long as you could. You gave up 2 touchdowns, to Kansas City for a whole game. Like most teams, like name another team in the league that's not going to take that. Really? 2 touchdowns? I'm in,
Exactly.
like I'm in. Oh, and one of them's in overtime? Yeah, you got me. We're winning this game, So it's just crazy. And to your other point, like I know this isn't the exact, but I don't know what it was. Everybody was so scared of Kansas City's run defense that both Baltimore and San Francisco decided to shy away from. Instead of trying to beat them, they just said, "Okay, forget it. We give up." But again, I guess maybe that's the defensive coordinator's fault too. So that's why
the thing that was funny about that is I don't even know why the Niners got away from it because it was working incredibly well the whole first half.
Right.
I mean, everything they were running was a 4 to 6 yard run. He had a couple. The only reason his average was down was because he had a couple where he got caught behind the line, but they weren't like drive killers, right? Like it was CMC gets the ball and it's 4 to 6 yards every time. I mean, I would have been doing that the whole game.
Right?
Why not?
Hey, once you figure out how to stop that, then maybe we'll use some of these other toys. But until then.
See, making changes for change's sake. That's not a good strategy, man.
Yeah. They just outsmart themselves. Well, they're going to stop our run, so we're going to change something so they can't stop our run. So we're going to stop the run ourselves.
Yeah, like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like even if you're worried about them figuring out how to stop the run, make them show you they can.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened to the next guy? I mean, if they hire somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience, he may not care, just happy to have a job and be on the team. But how about the person who's experienced at that position? Yeah. What are they potentially thinking here? Wilkes was top 10. It's like 30-something teams in the league. This guy was in the upper third percentile consistently, and they fired him.
Yeah,
it's like what? How do you?
Well, yeah, what they were third overall.
What better can you do going for the next head? I mean, defensive coach coming in. What can they do? How do they survive?
Yeah,
but top 10 can't make it. What's your chances, bro?
If you're not the number one defense, because apparently 3 isn't good enough. So if you're not the number one defense, hit the bricks.
And you lost Greenlaw during the game. That's a significant thing to overcome to still play as well as you did. So I don't get it. If the offense had lost C-Mac in the middle of the game, we would make excuses for them, right? Be like, oh, it's fine, it's not their fault. They lose Greenlaw, I'm like, we're still firing you. It just wasn't working out. Like, okay, make that make sense.
Is John Lynch? Is he a part of this?
No, I think that was a Shanahan fire right there.
I feel like that was.
Yeah. Okay, I hope.
And from everything like I said, listening to the podcast guys talk about it and guys who have a little more inside knowledge, they weren't shocked at this at all because of the tension in the building between the two of them. So
yeah, wow,
yeah. Like I said, I didn't know any of this until I started listening after when he was fired.
I didn't know about it either, man. You enlightened me, bro.
Yeah, they weren't surprised at all.
I mean, so really? Good on them for keeping the tension out of the national media, I guess.
Right. I agree.
But, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, crazy. So, all right, sticking with the NFL here, Justin Fields unfollows the Bears. Sure looks like he thinks he's getting traded, yeah?
Why is that? When did that become like an official thing? Like you go and look on everyone's socials.
It's because the players have made it a thing.
Yeah.
Is they've unfollowed and then either tried to force their way out or force a contract, or so now it's become this telling thing. Whereas the first time it happened, you're like, okay, who cares? And then all of a sudden it's like they're demanding a trade or whatever. And you're just like, oh, okay. So they're actually kind of like foreshadowing moves they're going to make by deleting the team or players or whatever. So the part that's interesting about it is who he is following is all the players for Atlanta.
Wow.
So is he trying to preface where it is he wants to go?
God. Apparently so. I mean, I unfollowed the entire Instagram app. I said, I don't want this thing, period.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I said, what does that mean about me? I don't know. I think you guys mentioned it earlier this week, man, that Atlanta's probably a good spot for him. Honestly, sitting here right now, seeing all that we saw with all the alibis we added to it and all the reasoning why Fields might deserve another chance, I don't know if this is a fit or not. I guess we'll just find out. It's not. I don't see anything that's guaranteed to say, you know what, this is better than where you were at. This is I don't know.
And then what are you willing to give up to go get him too? That's the other thing.
He has some talent on offense in Atlanta that he doesn't have with Chicago, Claypool included. But I don't know. Other than having some incredible talent and maybe a fresh start, a new atmosphere, a new environment, a new team development opportunity, I guess.
I think that's
aside from that, I don't know if there's any guarantees there whatsoever that he's going to do well there or not. I don't know. But the whole social media part is like, wow. That's becoming of an influence to that degree that, you know what, you want to follow somebody that means something. Why does the franchise care if you unfollow them or not? Just show up and practice.
I think it does mean something with today's athlete. Is the thing. It
shows you a feeling about them.
Yeah, they all live on social media.
Like when folks block us, you mean? Like when they block us on Twitter? I don't like you. I blocked you. Burn.
That's hilarious. Okay. Like that doesn't bother me at all.
That's what I'm saying. But it shouldn't bother the franchise either. Just show up for the mandatory team meetings.
Yeah.
You want to follow you on Instagram? Just show up for the meetings.
So I think there's a distinct difference there, though. Like if you get an athlete that blocks you on Instagram or something, you're like, okay, because you don't have to work with them the next day. But if you have that kind of like vitriol, like, I don't like you anymore. It's like, cool. See you Monday, dude. Like, like that's probably not the best. But, you know, and the thing is if you're Atlanta, do you go after a guy like Fields where you have to give up draft picks? You still don't really know what he is. You have to pay him next year. Or do you target a guy like Kirk Cousins that you know exactly what he is? You know what it's going to take to get him, and you don't have to give up any draft capital to make it happen.
Right.
So then all of a sudden you start looking at, does Fields go to the Steelers? Or does the Steelers make a play for Russ? I've seen that floated around a little bit.
That's crazy.
What about that one?
Yeah.
So
it's hilarious that they're still in the building. They can't figure out if they like Pickett or Mason Rudolph more, and that just seems like the worst horse race I've ever heard of.
Too, right? Like when you think
about,
I think
they just let Trubisky go. I think.
No, they did. Yeah. But when you think about this season, right?
Like
that's your three horsemen there.
Yeah, yeah. That's
two-legged sea biscuit. That's what we're talking about right now.
It's like like you were fighting with a C, a D, and an F, and just like I just need to pass it grade. I just need to pass it grade.
That's Seabiscuit if you ordered it off Temu. Like
yay, average.
Oh yes, you want a Seabiscuit? No, we got Seabiscuit at home.
That is exactly what that is. Yes.
What is the best spot for Fields? Because honestly, I don't even know now.
I just don't think you only gave him 1 year with weapons, right? And still not a great line. Yeah. And missed 4 games kind of in the middle of the season. So it's like, I have no idea. They had a good connection, him and DJ Moore at times, but they were still a bad team. So
and even then, it's not like we ever got to see him push the ball because the line didn't support that. Right. So even when he did have some decent plays, you know, the air yards on the ball were like 8-10 yards. And then it was just your receiver made an incredible play after that. Right. It was all yak yardage. Yeah. So, and that's something that can be said about Geno this last year too. right? The offensive line fell apart. Most of his connections weren't super far down the field because he didn't have enough time to throw the ball. So I can't really fault Fields a ton for it. Because if you're running for your life, there's only so much you can do. But at the same time, if you're another team looking at him, how much are you going to give up for a guy that you really don't know if he can play the spot? Yeah. I mean, you don't even know if he can go through all his reads because he hasn't had time to do that.
I got mad respect for DJ Moore, and I know that he was burnt with the whole Carolina trade thing.
Yeah.
It was a little bit on the messy side. But his comments, and I ran into him about Justin Fields, it's like, wow, I respect this. This I don't know if you guys agree with it. This is what he was talking about. In short, he was saying that, Fields is his guy, and what they should do is trade that pick, drop back, get some O-line help because they desperately need it, and some depth at wide receiver, and give that man a chance to grow. This is what this what their number one wide receiver, who they brought in from Carolina to be a number one wide receiver, is saying. And it's like, it's kind of hard to ignore that when your number one wide receiver speaks to you like that. It's just like if Jefferson opened his mouth and said something similar about Kirk Cousins, I'm not sure if he did or didn't, but just hypothetically, if he did that, that should speak volumes, because that's your number one guy who you got a big investment in. He's your main dude in the wide receiver room, and he's saying, "Yo, Kirk Cousins is the guy." This is what DJ Moore is saying about Fields, and I'm like, you know what?
And Jefferson did. Jefferson
Huh?
did. Jefferson basically said, "I'm not going to sign a long-term deal if you don't bring Cousins back." So
see that should mean something. So in this case, what should it also mean the same thing? Because if DJ Moore is your guy, your number one guy, and he's saying that about Fields, honestly, there's validity to it. It makes sense because the O-line situation has not been great. Matter of fact, it hasn't even been close to great. Matter of fact, it's been deficient for a minute. Not including, I mean, who said that Fields' injuries isn't because of the deficiency in the O-line? I mean, you haven't given him a chance to shore that stuff up and see what you actually have. And with the wide receiver stuff, I mean, guys like Mooney, they're not bad, but Mooney is what he is. He does what he does best. It's not like, they have the kind of ability that they should have with the kind of money they've had in the cap. I don't know how many, at least 3 years they've had money. It just hasn't been spent very well.
Right.
And even when they've had draft picks, they haven't used them well.
Right.
Exactly. So I don't know that we can legit say, Phil, this is all your fault. When you're gone, we're gonna be exponentially that much better. Yeah. I don't know about all of that. So I like DJ Moore's comments. I actually would love to see that. I love to see who actually traded to get the number one pick in the first place. That'd be fun to see who's going to even invest that. But I think in this case, without no dispersion towards Caleb Williams, I think that, maybe this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Stock your O-line, get that part right, get some receiver depth. I think some running back depth too, if I was them, and get that stuff straight, and then give him some time. I don't know what you give him, maybe a 2-year deal with incentives or whatever, and give him a shot to actually do it under better circumstances, more ideal circumstances, and see what he does. If it doesn't work out, go back into the draft pool and get yourself a QB.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Especially with the value you're going to get from the number one pick in a draft like this,
Tremendous.
You can fix the team. It's criminal though to draft a guy number one, quarterback, and then never fix your O-line. I feel like those are the first two things you do is O-line and wide receiver after you draft a quarterback. Like, here are the first two things that you need. And then maybe a cheap running back later in line just to fill out the offense. But how you don't do either of those things is like, they should at least have like the best O-line in the world and no wide receivers, right? Or like 3 number one draft picks at wide receivers and no O-line. One of the other you would expect, right? But to have neither, you're just like, so the plan was what with this guy again?
Your plan was to just be bad everywhere. And hey, kudos to the Panthers for following suit.
Yeah.
They spent most of their money on defense, but you can't see it.
Well, yeah, because they never leave the field.
That's the thing. That is the thing. They're worn out. So, by the time the second quarter comes out, you're like, we've been out here the entire time, right? Like the entire time.
When you're at halftime and you're already losing by like 28 minutes on time of possession, it's probably not a good day.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, I didn't realize that they were that high, but the defensive rankings, they're like, I think 13th last year. So I'm gonna give them props for that part.
Yeah, they were an average defense. But when you figure they never
above average,
field,
if you're 13, that's
better.
above average.
Yeah.
That's above middle of the field. So that's actually good. But that
Well, and then
O-line
you
part, like
figure
to
they
her
were on
point.
the field the whole time. They probably would have been a top 10 if they had an offense that could play.
Man. Come on, man. Give him a little bit. Just a little bit of pop.
No. That's what I'm saying is I think that defense would have fallen into the top 10 had the offense been able to stay on the field ever.
Yeah. Like to her point to that O-line situation, how do you ignore that all this time with all these picks? So DJ Moore's idea is good. Go ahead and drop back.
Right.
Make sure you get some picks this year and fix that O-line situation and the depth at some offensive positions because you're not getting around that. Matter of fact, tight end can't be ignored either now that I think of it. But
I mean, they need a lot of parts.
Yeah.
they need more picks then.
They
Not using the number one. You need more picks.
So,
you need to drop back.
It's funny. What I thought the Bears should do because they have so many holes is trade off of that first pick and go get one of the, middle round quarterbacks, right? Like a Penix type in the draft order, right? Somewhere, one of those guys that's going to be about mid first round. But also trade Fields. So you get some draft picks for him. You don't have to pay him coming up. You obviously don't believe in the guy anyway. Go get a new quarterback, and then you're going to get a haul of picks for the number 1 overall pick. And of course, you're going to get a couple of, you're going to get like a third and a fourth with an escalator, or maybe a third and a third with an escalator, something like that for Fields. So you get all of those picks to then get a new quarterback. So it resets when you're going to have to pay a guy. And then you can go and, in theory, start to work on that offensive line, maybe get a tight end, like start to get some depth in some spots. Now, of course, it's the Bears and they're going to do none of those things, but they're going to keep Fields and use the number 1 pick just to make the receiver room or the quarterback room as toxic as humanly possible. And welcome to the Bears.
The number 1 wide receiver in the draft too, because DJ Moore ain't going to be happy with that scenario.
For sure. Yeah.
Somebody replace him now and start grooming him.
Yep. All right. So changing gears before we get out of here. The dumbest all-star game I've seen so far. And I mean, is this product even watchable anymore? I couldn't get into this.
I had it on the second TV while we were watching shows. So let me give a shout out to my boy Dame Lillard, who has been an extreme disappointment to me all year. This was the I used to be a huge Dame fan while he was in Portland, right? And then he gets to Milwaukee, and I'm like, oh, you might be the problem, But this game was tailor made for him. So all I had to do was shoot 3-pointers and play no defense. MVP. And that's what you got. And you had people out here imploring them to play harder in this game, and they played even worse than normal and set a points record. So great job, guys.
So this was crazy, right? It was 211 to 186.
You had a 50-point score on the losing team, and like 2 30-point scores hit like 17 threes between them, something crazy like that.
Oh yeah, I think there were 5 guys that put up over 30 points, and there was 168 3-pointers. Like, what are we even doing right now? And then I think what makes this even more unwatchable is in your skills challenges, right? Your dunk contest was like the best work was being done by the G League guys, so that NBA guys weren't even really trying that hard. You got a guy that wins for the second time, and so he's won the dunk contest twice. I think he's played in like 4 actual NBA games, right?
Like he's not on the NBA roster right now. He's still.
Oh, is he still off one?
Yeah, I don't think he's on one right now.
So, I mean, prime example right there, right? And then you get into the skills challenges, and one of the guys doesn't even try. He just jacks up every shot with his left hand and misses everything. And it's just like you're supposed to be out there highlighting why you guys are the best in the league. And instead you're out there treating it like nobody cares. Why are we here? And if you're watching the game, nobody cares. Why are we here?
Yeah.
Like, if that's how you're treating it, that's how we're viewing it.
Yeah, the Sabrina and Steph was probably the best part of the whole skills thing, just because both of them were actually trying. And I actually turned off everything, had sound up, and was watching that part. Yep. Everything else was background while I was doing other stuff. So
You guys are much better than me. I'm not even close to being on your level because the NBA makes me sad. Making me sad for a long time. Since the 90s ended and we hit the year 2000, I've been sad about the NBA. We're talking about 24 years of sadness. You know what I'm saying? This guy got a trophy and got booed by the fans. I'm like, let's just factor all that stuff into this. Just think about that kind of stuff. I see the idea that Rodg was talking about.
Yeah,
I hear you, but these players they're so far gone. It's like it's too late for that now.
they make so
You
much money.
Can't even make it happen now.
Yeah.
No matter how many
pay
monetary rewards you throw out, it's not going to happen now.
So
you don't care now.
Yeah.
Talk about load management. That's a whole different ballgame. They don't care about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So like to that point, when they did the in-season tournament, they had little monetary incentives, right? And it was like $100,000 for a certain round. But that works for an individual team because like half those bench guys, like 100,000 is a significant amount.
Sure. Once
you get to the All-Stars, you're probably talking 30 million up, 40 million up a year for all those guys.
No doubt.
What incentive can you offer? Hey guys, I know you made 50 million this year on your Supermax contract. Here's 50 grand for winning the All-Star game. They're going to go.
Yeah, that's
got
cute.
that in my seat, in my cushions.
Give it to charity for life.
I'm good.
That was my last NBA fine.
Yes. The only way the All-Star game was even a little bit better was when they at least let them draft teams and play for charity, and they had the Elam ending where at least the losing team had a chance at the end. That was about it. But even then, it was still like no defense. But there were other things going on. I think the draft was better than the actual game. That was fun to watch. After that, I turn it off. Nobody's playing. So
and I mean that kind of stems into the fact that effort has been a problem in the league for a while, which is why we have that new 65 game rule, right? That basically you have to if you don't make 65% of the games, which is only 80%, right, or 65 of the games, right, 80% roughly. Then you can't be, an all-pro or an MVP, right? Like it strips those.
You can't get any awards, yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's sad that the league has gotten to this point where you feel like you have to put rules like this in because the players just aren't going to play. And if you're a fan, obviously you're not paying tickets to go watch your, bench team get smoked, right? So you're just like, I don't know if there's a good path through this at this point. Like there doesn't seem to be that I want to be out there every second because I want to win.
Right.
Like there doesn't seem to be that drive in the league anymore.
Right.
I'm grateful for Joe Dumars, man. I'm grateful for his voice and all this stuff. He's known for his being a star in the era of the 80s and the 90s, and that's the era that I appreciate the NBA the most.
Yep.
I stand on that continually. Can't help it. He's an advocate for players getting back to playing as much of the 82 games as possible. And I'm grateful for his voice. I hope that many more get along with that because, like to your point, Bo, you ain't paying for tickets to not see somebody play. Sitting over there toweling off and ain't did no work. I mean, we're not here for that. We want to get the NBA what it's supposed to be: competitive, fun, enjoyable to watch. It's hard to say about anything that we're seeing on the court right now. So thank God for Joe Dumars. Keep spouting that because we need to hear that. They need to hear it because this load management stuff, this not even playing close to 82 games. I mean, these guys, some of them play 50.
Yeah.
They don't even play anywhere close to that. It's like it's a disservice to the whole sport. And people are just tired of it. I know I am. I think you guys are too, man. So
the problem is Popovich is the one that kind of started that whole thing with load management. So it didn't even come from the players. It came from one of your best coaches of all time. So he kind of started that. Then you bring in the Supermax, and the guy's like, so let me get this straight. I make $50 million this year. If I play 82 games, I make $50 million. If I play 60 games, I make $50 million. It's kind of like, we still might make the playoffs, even with me making 60, and I've got a chance at a championship. It's like, how do you incentivize those guys to go out and play the extra 5 games? So it's like, or the extra 10, and so they came up with this rule, and I see where the players are, but they did 2 things wrong. A, they picked somebody who's always injured as their poster child for the rule. We're all behind Joel Embiid. He was getting hurt before this rule was in place. So don't rally around that guy. And second, none of the fans are going to be on your side because we want to see you play. So I'm not going to be like, the rule sucks, but can you guys still play anyway? Like, come on.
Yeah. All right, my guys. Thank you for hanging out. Everybody watching, thanks again for dealing with us being a little delayed at the beginning of this thing. I was just over here playing in the dark. Let everybody know how they can find you.
As they call me, Mr. Yu, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Twitter, and on our YouTube channel. And of course, we're on Monday mornings at 9 a.m. EST. 4 of us together.
That
Monday show.
Yeah, that Monday show is what it's called, guys. If you're Googling this, it's called That Monday Thing. So make sure it's That Monday Thing with a G on the end, just so you're clear on that.
Priceless.
For us, Rodg and Herb on Twitter or X, whatever, and you can search us Herb and Rodg Podcast on YouTube, where you find all our videos. And,
that Tuesday thing.
That Tuesday night thing. So you can be that Monday morning thing. We'll be that Tuesday night thing.
My apologies. That Tuesday night.
Awesome. Thanks again for tuning in. If you are here on Roku, be sure to stay for the next hour. Other than that, see y'all next week.